Hi, Matt from Modern Samurai here again, and today I want to talk about the real reasons as to why we're having such a knife crime epidemic at the moment, or what I think is the case anyway. So there's lots of things being touted over the news and social media and all that kind of stuff, and I just wanted to dispel some of the reasons why I think those aren't necessarily valid, and then go into what I think is. So first and foremost then, what gives me any right to say anything? Well, obviously, as you can tell, I'm a middle-aged guy now, but when I was younger, I went through quite a substantial amount of bullying, quite a lot of, violence in the home, a lot of unpleasant things, yeah. I actually was suspended from school for pulling a knife on a kid as a teenager, and in my years as working in security and stuff, I have had knives, bottles, all sorts of things pulled and used on me. So, so although it's not relevant in the sense that I'm not 19 anymore, I'm not in a gang on the streets of London, it's very relevant in the sense that I've been around it, and I've got perhaps a little bit of an understanding towards some of those things. So, I now run a martial arts gym. I've got multiple black belts. I've written a book. I've worked in security for a lot of years. So, I've got a little bit of a background with regards to that kind of thing. So, all right. So, without further ado, then, so guys, if you can, subscribe, click the bell icon, comment, let us know what you think, and so let's get on with it then. So, what is it not? Yeah, so some of the reasons that are being touted and why not. All right, now, one of the main ones that people come up with a lot of the time at the moment is they're saying it's all to do with immigration and race and cultural background and things like that. And again, I'm not dismissing those things and saying those things don't have a relevance, but what I am saying is, when somebody says, oh, it's a black on black crime, which, statistically there is a lot of that, then, your response to that is, well, if you go back, years ago when Glasgow was the murder capital, the knife capital of Europe, that was, white on white guys. So it's not it's not a race issue, it's a economic issue. I mean, it definitely boils down to, the poorest people in the communities, the most disenfranchised people in the communities. It boils down to that. So it's not a question of colour, I would suggest. It's a question of, socio and economic background, yeah? And so that's something that needs to be addressed, yeah? We're looking at the wrong things, I think. And then if we look at things like police cuts, at the moment, there's this big thing about police cuts. And of course, police cuts across the board, they have a massive bearing. But again, that's not the only issue. That's not the sole issue. These are just portions of it. Now, of course, if there was more bobbies on the street, would that deter crime? I think in the main, yes, of course, yes. But I also would suggest that one of the main problems is actually more about sentencing than it is about catching criminals, because as it stands at the moment, people, you read in the paper, people can get, are convicted for crime after crime after crime after crime, and still not get a custodial sentence. And then when they do, it's not really a deterrent, because when you look at some of the worlds that these guys come from, prison's actually a step up. So the next one then is expulsion from school. Now, at the moment, people are pushing this a lot, and there's, anything to try and avoid the real issues, I believe, for me, when it comes to politicians. I'm not a big fan at any level. So when we look at that and they're like, well, it's all about, excluded kids. And again, obviously, the truth of the matter is, if you've got kids that are excluded, if you've got kids that are, taken out of mainstream education for whatever reason, right, then that almost certainly is going to impact the rest of their lives. Yeah. Now, you've also got to bear in mind that, a lot of these guys are excluded for a lot of different reasons, and they find themselves in these positions. But then what's the alternative? Yeah, we keep them in the school system and we disrupt everybody else. Let's be real. There are some people that cannot work within a school setting. There are some children that just won't survive and thrive in that school setting. And then there are others that are just plain unpleasant people. I mean, let's be real again. There are good people in the world, there are bad people in the world, and anybody that says any different is just living in a little bubble. There are people in the world that just aren't nice people, and society and the education system needs to be protected from those. So we need to find a better solution there. But again, I don't think that's the core reason. Okay, and then we're looking at the current laws, yeah, and we're talking about current, weapons laws, and it's like, well, why is there such a high level of knife crime? The easy answer is because in the UK we don't allow guns. Now, I'm sure people at that point are going to say, what? That's ridiculous. But the truth of the matter is, people will always try and harm other people. There's always a section of community that will do that. There's always a section of people that, actually want to cause harm. There's also a section of people that feel victimized, that feel that they have to take the law into their own hands. There's a whole load of people out there that feel like the government, the police, the social services, all of these people have let them down really, really badly, and they have to take action themselves. They have to defend themselves. It's all well and good saying, oh, well, you shouldn't carry a knife. But if you live in certain parts of the country and you've got to get from A to B, and to do that, you've got to walk through what is a battleground, you're going to take steps to defend yourself. So the whole thing about, oh, you shouldn't carry a knife is a bit moot if you're a kid in that climate, if you're living in that environment, okay? So you've got, people like, there's a major supermarket chain at the moment that apparently has just announced that it's going to stop selling single kitchen knives. I mean, great. That's not going to make a blind bit of difference, is it really? I think that's just another little spin on something to try and take away what's actually relevant to the conversation. And so all of those things, yes, they have a bearing. Yes, they do have a part to play in it, but I don't think any of those are the actual issue. I don't think any of those are the number one concern. Okay, so what is? So what is the number one concern if those things aren't there then? What's the whole point of this conversation? Well, if we look at what the human needs are, there are 6 human needs, okay? And we need those as individuals. Every single one of us has to have them, okay? Now, the first one is certainty. Okay. Now, we need to have a certain amount of control in our lives, okay? And wherever we are in the spectrum, we will try and achieve that in whatever manner that we can, okay? So we need to have a certain amount of certainty in our lives. Now, all these things are important, okay? I'm going to explain in a moment. All right, and then we've got uncertainty, okay? We need to problem solve. We need to have things put in front of us, So what we're looking at there is, if I said to you, do you like surprises? There's a good chance that you'll probably say, well, yeah. And the reality of it is no, you don't. What you like is the surprises that you like. Okay. The other things are called problems, by the way. So we need to have uncertainty for us to grow as individuals. Otherwise, we would stagnate. All right. And then we've got significance. Now, this is the one that I'm going to come back to. This is the one that's very important to what we're talking about. Okay. So bear with me on this. And then the next one, then we've got love and connection. Now, again, we need to connect as people. Even if you're like an introvert naturally, you still have to have connections with people. Very, very, very few people would choose to be completely alone. It's not a human trait. It's not in our nature. And so even the most sort of unsociable people will still want to connect. If you look, they'll have cats, they'll have dogs, they will have something that they connect to emotionally, generally speaking. Okay, so there's that there. And then what we've got number 5, we've got growth. We all want to grow, we want to succeed, we want to try and better ourselves. And again, it's relative, isn't it, in regards to how people will achieve that and what they mean by that. But it's important to us all that we are growing. All right, and then finally, okay, we've got contribution. And then that basically means is what are you giving to the world, yeah? And again, it's one of those where people misunderstand that because some people think it means different because they're seeing it from their point of view. Now, contribution can be any number of things, okay? So those are the 6 basic needs. Now, if you remember, I spoke about number 3 and I talked about significance, but bear in mind all of these six needs because this is now where it gets, what I think, to the heart of the issue. All right, now, when we look at significance, okay, we all have a need to feel important. We all have a need to do that, okay? Now, some people get an education, they get a PhD, become a scientist, become a well-known whatever it may be in whatever industry or field that they're in, and they gain significance through that. Other people accumulate lots of money, yeah? They become a millionaire or a billionaire or whatever it is, and so that's their significance. Other people write a book, other people do, other things. There's all sorts. You've got guys now that are sort of young kids, 16, 17-year-old, 18-year-old kids that are, Instagram sensations and their social media, fame. They have this fame through social media. So that's their significance, yeah? So what happens if you've got nothing? What happens if what happens if you've got very little? What's a great way to make yourself significant? Pull a knife. carry a knife. You instantly gain significance. If you've got a weapon, you've got significance. All of a sudden, you're important. All of a sudden, you're a somebody. All of a sudden, you mean something to somebody, and you take that significance, yeah? If you pull a knife on me, you are significant to me now in my life, yeah? You wouldn't have been 5 minutes ago, probably, maybe not, I don't know, you know, if you're a stranger to me, but all of a sudden now you hold a massive significance to my life, and you've done that, with no hard work, no effort, no training, no time, yeah, it's an instant fix. And so if you're a young kid today, if you're disenfranchised, if you've got very little hope, if you live in a place where, you know, success is sort of an alien thing to you, if you live in a world where survival is paramount, yeah, just getting through the day, and there are places in the UK like that, right, then all of a sudden this word significance takes on a whole new meaning, and carrying a knife gives you instant significance. Okay, and that's what I think the real issue is. I think it boils down to that. It's significance. It's the individual needing to feel significant. We've taken away so many things from so many people, yeah? All the cuts, everything else. There's nothing left, is there? So if you're a young kid, join in a gang. And you think about the 6 points, yeah? What does joining a gang get you? Yeah, does it bring you certainty? Does it give you a kind of control? Well, of course it does, yeah? If you're a member of a gang, if you're part of a group, then you're a lot more certain than you were a minute ago, yeah? Does it create surprises that you want? Well, of course it does, yeah, because you get to dictate how you deal with other people, and you can be in charge of these things, right? Does it give you significance? Of course it does, yeah. You know, all these structures have hierarchies and so on and so forth. Does it create love and connection? Again, of course it does, because it brings in a group, it brings in a substitute family, a substitute framework of people and connections. It gives you that. And so again, when we're looking at, contribution, yeah, if you're a member of that kind of group, and if you're a member of that kind of, that gang, and they're your group of people, and you've got your significance within them, that's your contribution. All of those 6 points, all of those 6 human needs are being met, but they're being met by negative forces. And the reason that they're being met by negative forces is because we as a society has taken away the positive forces, the things that people used to have. Okay, it's not to say they're not there anymore, but they're very inaccessible to a whole load of people, a large proportion of our modern society. These things just aren't accessible for, yeah? And so they are finding their own ways to fulfill these human requirements and needs. And as they are needs, they do need to be filled. So guys, I honestly believe that when it comes to, knife crime, people carrying knives, people using knives, when it comes to all of this, I think that the blame can be laid squarely at the door of these 6 human requirements, and the one of significance being the most important. And I think that's what this boils down to. We need to find another way to give these people significance, to make them feel significance. We need to give these guys a way so that they can claim that for themselves without taking these negative roads. Okay, so guys, I'm sorry I waffled on. I'm sorry I made a big deal out of it. I'm sorry I talked a long time there. But it's something that's been sort of playing on my mind. And I've just been out with the dog. You can probably see him in the background there. And it's when I do my best thinking. And, it's just one of those things that are in my head. So you can agree, not agree, I don't know, leave a comment, tell me what you think, yeah? So subscribe, click the bell icon, guys, leave your comments, let's have a conversation about this, because the trouble is at the moment is the world that we live in is people aren't allowed to have a conversation anymore about just about anything, yeah? People are getting shouted down, people are getting cut off, people are getting deplatformed, okay? The conversation is coming to an end, and without it, we're just not going to survive, so we need to have the conversation. So guys, like I said, leave a comment, let me know what you think. Speak soon, guys.